think we will dive in. Very excited to talk to you about how to turn your Databricks data lakehouse into a CDP. So quick round of introductions. I'm Sean. I lead the product team here at Census. I'm going to be joined here in a couple minutes by Clayton from Databricks and Samir from Plume. In terms of agenda today, so I'm going to kick things off and I'll spend about the first 15 minutes giving you a high-level overview of the story behind Composable CDP, what is it, what you can do with it, as well as a demo of how you can use Census to build a Composable CDP on top of your Databricks data lake. From there, I'll hand it off to Clayton, who's going to give you a little more of the best practices and common use cases that they see at Databricks when thinking about sort of a Composable CDP story. And then finally, we'll finish off with Samir at Plume, talking about how he uses their Databricks lakehouse to drive marketing through Braze and through Census as well. So with that, I'll jump in on my side and we'll get into the details here. So quick introduction, just so you know who you're talking to. I'm Sean, as I mentioned. I started my career as a product manager at Google, and basically my entire career has been built on platforms. That was true at Google on their early cloud. That was true at my first startup in the ad tech space, and then at Dropbox on their platforms as well. And we started Census back in 2018 when we noticed how much data was floating around out there, but how hard it was to get a complete picture of a customer. And we wanted to start building a product to pull that information together and unlock that. And so you'll see that theme over and over again as we're talking about the Composable CDP here. So Census is the very first data activation platform built on your data lakehouse. We sync customer data out of the lakehouse into really any business tool you're looking for where people are actually doing the work. And on top of that, we make it easy for folks on the marketing side to really start activating that data or taking advantage of that data without knowing SQL, with being able to sort of point and click through and start building segments and sort of thing. So that'll be part of our demo today. We work with a ton of really wonderful companies. We love our customers. We love working with them. There's a few of my favorites here on the slide, but we'll be talking about in particular one here a little bit later today. So just to give you a little bit of sense of the reason for being behind Census, we saw a lot of the same challenges over and over and over again across different industries. How do we grow our customer base? Is our campaigns being successful? Are our customers not coming back? And hearing specifically from marketing folks, unifying their data is one of the key challenges that they're dealing with day to day. So with Census, we were really looking for a way to help our users, our customers, the folks that we were talking to, take advantage of the assets that they already had to sort of accomplish these goals. So this may look familiar for you. Your customer data, your first-party data, that most valuable resource that you have here is sitting in Databricks, and your marketing teams want to take advantage of it. They know that this is an unlock for the campaigns that they want to run, but they need them in their tools day to day, where they're driving their campaigns. That's their marketing automation, that's in the ad networks directly. And so the world today looks something like this. There's a request, a ticket comes in, it's always urgent. Can you export it? Can you get it to me? And so there's a lot of dashboard building. There's a lot of exports that maybe don't get done in time. Nobody ends up using. It's a lot of stress and work for something that should be really, really simple, really straightforward. And all of the sort of component parts are there. There is a category of tool out there, existed for a while, that's meant to solve this problem. It's called a Customer Data Platform, or a CDP. And it's really kind of an all-in-one tool product platform built for marketing teams. It pulls in a variety of different data sources, app events, mobile events, engagements in your mobile applications, and helps you kind of unify all that data, build the segments, and then push that out to various different destinations. That is sort of the collect, transform, and activate. But as data professionals, you see some familiarity here. You see some patterns that you're already doing, and that's what we were concerned about as well. We're building or buying a source of CDP to act as a source of truth purely for marketing, but that stack already exists and in a really wonderful, extensible, powerful form, right? With the lakehouse. Does it make sense to really have another copy of that data just to enable these marketing use cases? From our perspective, we really didn't think so. And so we're not alone from that perspective. That's definitely the case. So when we look at the companies out there using CDPs today, what we see just from survey results here, satisfaction is very low. They're not necessarily seeing that the CDPs that they're buying are meeting their needs in terms of capturing your data, in terms of additional workflows. And we really think that this power, flexibility, this unmet need here is where a lakehouse and a composable CDP-based architecture shines. So just to give you a bit of sense of our approach at Census, this is where we started. We saw that companies were out there investing heavily in their single source of truth. They were collecting data from events, from engagements, also from the various different applications that the company may be using to engage with customer support, CRM, additional facets of data that can be valuable as part of that additional customer profile. And we were investing in building the unified customer profile. We were building the insights. And a lot of this was sort of a BI-based approach, right? It was being powered by the data team, but this was already driving business outcomes, already driving business results. In a lot of ways, this was leading what was possible, or this was quite beyond what was possible in a lot of the sort of historic CDP tools. But again, marketing needs their tools plugged into this data. The activation can happen, but there's a gap here. And ultimately, this is really where this came in. We wanted to bridge this gap between all of the great work, all of the work being done to build that unified customer profile, combine those various different signals, and then get that out to those destinations. So this is what Composable CDP means to us. And you can see those three columns again, right? You have data collection, data transfer, data activation. But now these are tools that you're familiar with, right? So event streaming is still an extremely important set of data, but that's something that a snowplow can help you solve directly into your data lake. In addition to that, and this is where a lot of CDPs historically will fall down, you can pull in data from a variety of different services beyond just your application. So internal databases, SaaS tools, through an ELT product like Fivetran. Once it's in your data lake, once you have it in one spot, then you can join that, clean it, unify all the various different facets of that. In a lot of cases, that work is already done. You've already been doing data modeling with something like dbt. You can take advantage of the machine learning opportunities in Databricks' wider ecosystem to power both BI, but also that ultimate activation step. And that last step here is really where Census comes in. So in addition to the marketing destinations that we're talking about, we plug into really anything that could speak your customer data. So that can be on the sales side, customer success side, ad networks, your own apps, etc. There's a lot that you can do with Census beyond what we'll be covering here today, just in the composable CDP sense. What are the benefits of this? Well, there's a couple, and I think this will resonate particularly with this group. We're really sticking with that single source of truth. We're not replicating it. We're not copying it. You're not paying for it twice. You don't have to fight why this number not in sync with this other. Everything is operating on that same source of truth. And this is really the goal that we were trying to drive by partnering with companies like Databricks. In addition to that, you can see where this connects. That means that you have better governance and security. You're not copying data back and forth. All of the security constraints and access constraints that you're putting in place as part of your data warehouse still apply here, and they still apply with how the rest of Census takes advantage of your data. You give Census as much or as little access to the data data lake as you need in order to enable the use cases that we're looking at. You have a massive amount of flexibility as a result. The data sources that you pull in, you aggregate together are entirely up to you. And there are lots of tools and products out there to make that easy or to work with your particular business. How you stitch that together, data together, how you clean it, how you score it, how you pull out insights is also ultimately up to you. And that can be the same insights and work that you're doing to power the rest of the business, just now powered on the marketing side. And finally, you future-proof your stack. So that means that for that next application that's coming, for that next SaaS tool that you really need, for that really clever go-to-market scoring approach that you really want to apply AI to, all of those things are available for you to combine and plug together. This ultimately, at the end of the day, all of these components speak SQL. We talk together at the same level, and so we plug together as a result. So with that, I'm going to flip over to the Census CDP demo. So I've got my Census environment set up here. I've connected to my Databricks instance in this case, and I've gone ahead and plugged into a couple of different destinations. I'm going to just show you quickly the various different services that we plug into. Obviously, we have about 100 that we connect to on marketing, product analytics, sales, and customer success, as I mentioned. I've already gone ahead and got Facebook, and that's the one that I'll be using today. Our goal here is to get Census to a point where anybody from the marketing side can come in and start defining the segments that matter to them. And part of that process is getting the data in the right sort of consumable shape in the same way that you would be doing for really any sort of report or any sort of kind of published table that others may be sort of consuming your data. So I've got a segment here that I want to kind of build and take a look at, but you can see it's actually got some relationships between users, the teams they're a member of, and the events they had. In order to set up this structure, my very first step coming into Census is to create my library of entities. Most of the time, this is really just defining the tables that already exist in your data warehouse, right? You can think of this as really going through just favoriting the ones that matter to you. But the additional piece of information here that we collect is the relationships between those tables. So I know that my users are connected to teams and users are connected to events. We're pulling out sort of the relational structure of here. So we have this as metadata on the Census side. This is one of the things that you as a data professional do when you're first setting up Census, sort of enabling Census to understand the semantic meaning of the data that exists in your data lake already. Once this is done, you're in good shape. And that means that the marketing team can now come into Census and start building the segmentation or just syncing this data directly now that you've sort of defined these are the ones to take a look at. These are the records that matter. I'll flip over here. Imagine I'm putting on my marketer hat at this point, and we'll take a look at some of the segments that we've already built. I've got here my high value user segment. And in this case, this is actually a segment that has a couple of different properties, but our segmentation UI is really meant to be familiar for anybody who has experienced generating segments and that sort of thing before, not necessarily a data engineer or that sort of thing. So all of the conditions that you'd expect, filtering on particular dates and that sort of thing are available for you. But ultimately, underneath the covers, this is really just compiling down to SQL. If you want, you can always view the SQL that we're generating. And even in sneaky cases, if you want, you can just use SQL as a way to create really advanced segments as part of Census. You can see here that I've got my relationships between users. I've got teams, so I want users that are members of teams have a particular user count. And I've got my events based filter as well, which is really standard for any sort of those types of product analytics that you do. I can define users that experience certain events with a depth of engagement within certain time frames as well. All of this rolls up to a segment that can be then pushed into one or more destinations. In this case, I'm going to send my new segment over to Facebook. And I've actually already gone ahead and set up a predefined mapping of what this particular user's object looks like when I send it to Facebook. So I can go ahead and just hit create sync. I've got my new sync created. I'm going to quickly take a look and make sure it's everything I want. And yep, sure enough, email, first name and last name, that's all going to get synced over to Facebook. I'm going to hit sync now. I could obviously schedule this or have this run as frequently as I want. And on the Facebook side, I'm going to have my live segment constantly updated going forward. When the data model updates in the data warehouse with new data points, I'm going to get it here automatically in Facebook and any other destination that I sync my segments to. So I hope that gives you a sense of how you can use Census to activate the data assets you already have in Databricks. Before I go on, hand this off to Clayton to give even more tips of the power of Databricks, I'm going to just quickly answer a couple of questions about the Composable CDP. So let's see here. First up, what about real-time use cases? Great question. We get this question a lot. And so the first place I start here is to really ask, what is real-time? What real-time requirements do you actually need? I feel like in the case of a data lake, the conception is often, the overnight batch. The data isn't going to be there for 24 hours. And so we see with many of our customers now, this infrastructure is getting faster and faster. And it's really quite reasonable to have, 15-minute end-to-end data ingestion back to activation pipelines. And for a lot of real-time use cases, that's actually good enough. That's more than sufficient. In those cases, though, where you really do need that instant satisfaction, somebody signs up and you have to send them an email. We do have customers that have more of a hybrid architecture with a fast path connection. In that case, though, that data still flows into the data lake so that you can rationalize that data and update it later as well. So it's definitely possible, and it's getting faster and faster every day. Let's see here. What about identity resolution for the Composable CDP? This is a really good question. Identity resolution is one of those classic data problems that has storied history. And what we see more often than not is that it's really hard to get that perfect. It's just a hard problem. And the downside or the upside, depending on how you look at it, is that even with the classic CDP tools, data teams often don't trust the identity resolution that's happening there. Now, that means that you're doing that identity resolution in the data lake instead, but SQL and Python give you a ton of powerful tools. The one tip I will say is, in this case, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. More often than not, the very expected rules of 80 will get you to 80, 90% of coverage, and you can do a lot with that. And then take advantage of the power that you have with Databricks and the other aspects of the library to close that last 10%. You can always filter that out to start and then build up from there. Just a lot of things you can do in the data warehouse. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Clayton to talk about more things that the Databricks Data Lake can do for you on the marketing side.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Hey, everybody. My name's Clayton. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself, Databricks, and about how to build your CDP, the data lakehouse at the center, and how that sets you apart from the rest. So I started my career in regulated industries in Nashville, Tennessee. I joined Databricks to help democratize data and AI. I now work in the retail consumer goods vertical at Databricks and absolutely love being a Brickster. So a little bit about Databricks. We're out here in the world to simplify data analytics and AI. We are inventors and pioneers of the data lakehouse platform. We are Gartner-recognized leaders in both database management systems, data science, and machine learning platforms. We are creators of highly successful open source data projects such as Delta Lake, Apache Spark, and MLflow. And we've raised over $3 billion in investment, and we have 5,000 plus employees across the globe. It's no secret over the last 10 years that data analytics and AI has enabled tech leaders to disrupt industries. Here are a few logos on the screen, just to name a few. They put data and AI to use in a really strategic way that changed the landscape of business. So these tech leaders are far to the right on the data and AI maturity curve, and the left-hand side of this curve is looking backwards, looking at how you will behave or how the environment is behaving and are reacting in real time. This is not just them. Some enterprises have been having success too. Every company wants to leverage data. Here are a few success stories. Goldman Sachs, Riot Games, and Walmart Sam's Club. Sam's Club has saved over $100 million a year in preventing food spoilage. Riot Games seeks to personalize the real-time game experience for over 100 million active players, and they've experienced $500 million in new revenue since. And Goldman Sachs has used our platform to underwrite a new Apple Card in less than 5 minutes on the iPhone, which has resulted in $50 million in new revenue. Not everyone's having such a good time with the data and AI maturity curve and implementing AI into their enterprises. As a result, we can see that some enterprises still struggle with data analytics and AI. This can be explained by understanding that there are two systems that require the maturity on the data and AI maturity curve. Data warehouses for BI are on the left. They get at the questions around what has happened, whereas Delta Lake for AI gets at what will happen. These two incompatible data platforms, as you'll see in the next slide, result in duplication of data, difficult governance, and different environments for the different users of these platforms. We at Databricks don't believe that there's any need to have these two disparate platforms. We don't want disjointed and duplicative data silos. We don't want copies of data in different places, multiple platforms to pay for. We don't want incompatible security and governance models across the two different systems. And we don't want incomplete support for use cases across our personas. So what does it look like when we begin to take apart these difficulties? We see a coalescing of all of our use cases in a single place to govern and a one place to hold all of our data, structured and unstructured. This is the Delta Lake open source software that I told you about with data reliability and performance that powers our data lakehouse for all of that structured and unstructured data. One security and governance approach for all data assets on all clouds through Unity Catalog. And then all of your ML, BI, AI, streaming use cases all in one place. We call this the lakehouse paradigm. So you're able to have all of your data, structured and unstructured, in one place on any cloud. And we bring extremely reliable and extremely fast query performance to that data lake without leaving the open source technology called Delta Lake. You can also use it for data warehousing workloads. Unity Catalog, right above that, provides governance, like we said, all with one consistent model. And we offer purpose-built tools to allow everyone to collaborate on the same data. This cuts down on data duplication. This helps with any type of walled gardens that you might experience with other vendors where they have you locked into a proprietary format. You have agility between your different clouds. A lot of enterprises are going multi-cloud, and this platform works with that. But of course, our one company can't do everything, and we love our partners. Databricks thrives in the modern data stack. As you can see, we have integrations with, from, and to many partners. And this is exactly why we're on this call today. We have partners like Census and customers like Plume to tell the great stories like you'll hear next. So I'm going to talk a little bit about best practices in setting up your lakehouse as a CDP. Sometimes CDP claim to be a one source for customer truth. And while that would be great, sometimes the promise falls short when rubber hits the road. And we find that out of all the systems that make up a CDP at an enterprise, it's best if you're going to go after a composable CDP to bring all of that data to the Delta Lake. You then, with all of your data co-located in one place, educate and empower your SQL analysts, your data engineers, your data scientists, your ML engineers to make the most of the data. Once they've worked through that data, that is all co-located in one place, get that golden vision of what a customer could be, should be, has been, then you can let that data empower your systems, processes, and teams through a partner like Census. And then continuing to leverage the agility of the lakehouse to derive value for your consumer is definitely a part that we stress in the Composable CDP. Remember that there's no walled-in gardens with this data format. You have the ability to leverage that data in almost any environment, in any tool. And that lack of a walled garden or proprietary format for that data allows you to continue to stay agile well into the future. So a couple common use cases. We like to write solution accelerators with our customers when they solve difficult problems. And we actually package those solution accelerators up and put those out on our website. So this is all part of our journey to democratize data and AI. A few common use cases that I've seen central to CDP would be customer entity resolution, customer segmentation, and customer lifetime value, all of which are pictured here and are available through the Databricks homepage under Solutions. And if this isn't enough for you, there are over 50 plus more free solution accelerators on our website. So go out, check them out, have a good time. Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening today, and I'm going to hand it off to Samir at Plume. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. I feel in today's world, if you look around with all the meltdown occurring around us, we realize that the pace of change is accelerating. All businesses want to do more with less, with fewer resources, with more aggressive timelines. So overall, I think this is going to be a continued trend, which has been over the last many years, and it's just going to continue to get worse, right? So how are businesses dealing with this? So they're actually dealing with this. Obviously, there's many successful businesses. So what they're doing is they're improving their business processes and allowing people to make data-driven decisions using purpose-built applications for different business stakeholders or business users, in which data is surfaced up through some system of record, right? So typically these tend to be SaaS applications. For example, in my company, different users use different SaaS applications. Support users use ServiceNow, marketing users use Braze, Mixpanel, finance people are using NetSuite, etc. So each of them is using their system of record with data surfaced up in it, right? And that's how they're coping with this pace of change. So how does this data get into these systems of records to allow our business to deal with its business processes? Okay, that's when data integration comes into the picture. I'm Samir Vaidya. As you can imagine, I'm a data and integrations architect at a company called Plume. Over the past couple of years, I've worked in the data space, having implemented Databricks at Plume. And over the last year, I've worked on a product called Harvest Marketing Intelligence Suite, which is taking work done by our marketing teams and leveraging it for our CSP customers. Okay. So generally speaking, in the data and integration space, there is no dearth of entertainment and excitement. So I've been having a pretty good time. One of the things that's made me very successful over the past couple of years is implementation of Databricks and of Census at Plume. So I was delighted when these vendors asked me to join them to present this webinar and share some of our experiences for implementing a CDP at Plume. Plume started about 7 years ago, and we introduced three major, what was at that point in time, breakthrough innovations. Okay, the first thing we did is we built a cloud-based smart home Wi-Fi management platform. Okay, so back in the day, we all understood that Wi-Fi was not working well for service providers and for consumers. And we wanted to build a product in that space, but we made a decision to make that product cloud-based and manage smart homes in people's consumer homes. Okay, The second decision we made was to use a mobile app, sort of a mobile first strategy for engaging consumers and giving them the control and visibility into their Wi-Fi networks and managing the features for their Wi-Fi networks. And this was considered pretty radical at that point in time. The third thing we did is wanting to grow to scale. Instead of building a direct-to-consumer product, we actually built it and went to service providers to carry our product to market. And luckily for us, the timing worked out, and service providers love this product. And over a period of time, we've seen a lot of success in the market. Our product does four major things. And to begin with, we offer awesome Wi-Fi and expanded coverage in your entire home. On top of that, we offer a number of features, and we call these consumer experiences. Why experiences? Because previously, the service providers were primarily talking about the network speeds and rate plans and so on. Whereas with Plume, we allow them to now talk in terms of various features and capabilities that they can get over a period of time. So in addition to getting awesome Wi-Fi in your home, we then built protection for connected online devices using security features. That was our next product, our next experience that we offered to the market. We allowed parents to control access for their kids or other family members, so access control to network services. And most recently, we've built a feature where we can take your Wi-Fi access point and connected Wi-Fi devices and offer them motion detection in your home. So all of these we call experiences, and we take those to the market through our service provider channels. We're currently deployed in about 47 million homes and deployed through about 350 service providers across the world. The internet services and home Wi-Fi space is fiercely competitive. So it's very difficult to attract and gain new customers. And so large effort for our marketers is to focus on taking the existing customers, keeping them happy, keeping them engaged, and ensuring that we can retain them over a long period of time to maximize their lifetime value. So for this, our marketing teams use multi-channel campaigns using personalized data, which is up-to-date, relevant, and contextual to each customer communication. In the multi-channel space, our primary campaigns are email-based, but fortunately for us, we made this investment in the HomePass mobile apps, and this now affords us two more channels, which is the in-app notifications and push notifications. And through these three channels, our marketers creatively use all of these to keep our customers engaged and happy and make them realize the value of Plume that Plume is delivering to them. Some examples of this, we begin with something that we call onboarding journey. And in the onboarding journey, we offer different kinds of emails to welcome the consumer, and we tell them what Plume does for them, encourage them to connect their devices, encourage them to enable certain features, etc. Okay. So here on the right-hand side, you can see that there is a example of an in-app message that we are sending to somebody that has not yet turned on motion sensing. But here we are explaining them, what is the value of it, and coaxing them into clicking that one button to enable that feature. So this is how we help take customers, understand what features they've configured, and encourage them to use more features. At the end of the year, we want the customer to remember what Plume did for them over a period of time. As you can imagine, that if your home Wi-Fi is working well, then it's quite easy for you to forget about Plume. So we have to subtly, on a continual basis, keep reminding the customer of the value we are providing to them. So here you can see that we built something called a monthly value discovery campaign. On the left-hand side, you see that we've sent a note to Annie explaining them what we did for her smart home in the month of July. We explained her all the problems we solved for her and how we kept her network optimized and tuned to give her devices awesome experiences. Okay. So this was our early stage monthly discovery campaigns, we were using fairly simple statistics and text. As you can see in the middle, over a period of time, this became a little more sophisticated, and we started using nicer looking visualizations and richer data to address this monthly value. So in the middle one here, we are explaining how we protected your smart home from a number of threats that your home your connected devices faced over the period of the month. So all of these engagements and channel engagements and campaigns help us improve our customer engagement and overall satisfaction and retention of customers. So in the last slide, it might have seemed as if this was all smooth sailing and buttery smooth right from day one, but it was far from that. We've been doing this for 2-3 years now, and in the beginning, it was very, very painful. So I like to think of it as we were in the stone ages. So in the early days, when our marketing teams would come and try to build these campaigns, all of the data R&D engineering and data analytics was done by a central products team. And so this made it very difficult for marketing. So as you can imagine, the product R&D team is busy building products, and helping our brethren in marketing is just kind of an afterthought on a best case basis. So in the early days, it was a bit challenging for our marketing team. Every time they wanted to build something, they would have to go to product R&D teams. Sometimes they went to the API team. Sometimes they had to go to the data team to ensure that certain amount of data is available. If some new features have come, they would have to go and chase down various engineers to get the appropriate data into the tables. Then subsequently, they had to work with API team to build some integrations with our third-party product called Braze. So generally speaking, it was a slow and painful process, and they didn't have much ability to do things on their own. And so over a period of time, we said, okay, this is not really going to work. And luckily, at about the same time, we implemented Databricks. And Databricks changed the fabric of our company a little bit. And it gave us a platform and ability to expand the different kinds of users. So in addition to the core R&D data team, we were now able to offer data analytics and SQL and those kinds of products to our marketing analysts. So at that time, our marketing team hired some data analysts to be seated in their team, as opposed to having to go to the central team every time. And they started using Databricks to access the data available to them. And slowly over time, they learned to build their own pipelines. For some period of time, they were exporting CSVs from these pipelines and then importing them into Braze to power some of their campaigns. Okay. But things were slightly better here because they are at least able to do something on their own. Over a period of time, we also found this Census product. I think it was Sean and his team approached us, and we were just absolutely delighted. We were absolutely thrilled to see this product, because at that time, we were trying to see that, okay, this whole CSV import export, it's kind of fun, but it's not really sustainable. It's not super productive. And we wanted to find a technology that would take the data in our Databricks warehouse and directly sync it with our Braze platform. And we had a few options at the time. So one was to go to our API team and ask them to build something. And the API team found it a little tricky and challenging because most of their experiences were in building transactional APIs for our mobile apps and for our web applications. So they didn't per se have an architecture to build batch jobs. So we went to our data team, and the data team had a different problem. They were very, very good at doing batch processing of data, taking input data and pushing it out to some target system. But they were not familiar with APIs. And this sounds a bit strange, but this was kind of our conundrum as to which team should build this, right? Because neither team had like the sweet spot for taking bulk data and syncing up with some target system using APIs offered by that target system. So we were going through these challenges. And so as you can imagine, we were pretty delighted to come across Census, where we could click a few buttons and then set up like these regular syncs for our data into Braze. So let's look at what that architecture looks like today. So I'm fast forwarding this a little bit, and I'll explain how we build this out over time. So here on the left-hand side, we have connected smart homes with our OpenSync enabled hardware and our HomePass mobile applications used by the consumers connected to Plume SaaS clouds. The Plume SaaS clouds manage these networks and also collect data from these networks in forms of telemetry and different types of events. And the data ingestion pipelines here build out, our data engineers use these data ingestion pipelines to build out a set of tables. Over a period of time with Databricks, we've built out using this idea of bronze, silver, and gold. We built out what we consider star schemas inspired by data warehousing technology, where we have fact tables and dimension tables built into our warehouse. Now, at this point, we wanted to come up with this idea of customer profiles, because in order to address each customer's personalized information through these campaigns, we wanted to understand all the various attributes of a customer that we've collected over time. Because we manage smart home locations, we came up with this moniker of Location 360. So typically, a customer CDP has a notion of customer 360 view, where you take everything known about a customer over the life cycle and you build it into attributes or profile attributes of the customer. So we did a similar idea where we know a lot of things about the smart home locations, how they're being optimized, how they're being secured, what features are turned on and off, etc. And we extracted them into these attributes called Location 360 attributes. Okay. So this established our basis of a concept of CDP. We in the Location 360, we build this idea of configurations of the smart home, capabilities, KPIs or metrics that we've derived from various events. And then lastly, our ML engineering team takes some of this data and builds some customer traits. So we understand certain things about a customer, like which location is more inclined to do gaming, which one are heavy users of streaming applications, what is the household size, and various other kinds of inferences and predictions built by our ML team. So all of these are built using the Databricks platform features. So this is what we can think of as the Plume CDP. And on top of that, we now have our marketing data analysts that can build their own pipelines to use either the underlying tables or attributes from the Location 360 tables and decide what of this they want to export and sync up with Braze on some kind of an ongoing cadence or a monthly cadence or whatever is the scheduled interval that they need. Out here, you can see that we use Census. So the marketing data analysts actually manage Census. And they build temporary tables in Plume using the underlying tables. They build their own pipelines. And from that, they sync up appropriate columns of the tables that they build into Braze. Those who are familiar with Braze might look at this screenshot of Braze on the right-hand side and realize that this is the customer profile. They call it customer custom attributes in Braze. So we sync up many of these attributes into Braze. And then the marketing team builds campaigns on top of that, whether that's for personalized emails, for push notifications, or in-app notifications. And so these get built and delivered from Braze back to the consumer home. And as you can imagine, some of these get opened in HomePass, some of these get opened in email, etc. So I sometimes think of this whole journey back and forth almost like a journey of a Pacific salmon that goes through the rivers into the ocean and then goes back upstream to spawn more eggs, and the cycle continues. So we do something like that with our data and with these different teams building out portions of value along the way and enabling us to build these kinds of marketing campaigns. So the benefits, as you can see, of this overall approach that we've built out over time is the first one is that using the Databricks and Census platforms, we really have enabled marketing to be self-sufficient. Okay, and this naturally allows them to accelerate the number and types of campaigns that they can build. They've eliminated most of their dependence on having to go to different R&D teams. and they're able to do this on their own. So we see this like hugely valuable to us. As a result of their campaigns, and this is not, they do many campaigns. So in one specific case, they actually measured the improvements in their campaigns based on how they were encouraging customers to use certain features, or they were tracking the open rates based on the monthly campaigns and so on. So the couple of numbers that they've provided me is that in the couple of campaigns that they tracked, they noticed that open rates were up by 13%, and the feature usage that they were tracking was directly attributable to the in-app notifications, and they were up by 20%. So overall, they were very pleased and encouraged by these results. And the engagement has generally helped us. Customers are actually happy and excited to see these reports, and we're seeing improvement in our NPS scores. Although I don't have like a precise number for attributed to that, but in general, we've seen pretty strong NPS scores from our survey results. To sum this up, our time to value for these projects to get our build our CDP customer attributes and push them into Braze to enable marketing campaigns is really being reduced to minutes instead of having to struggle and build something in-house over a period of months. I'm slightly hesitant to say that we saved a lot of money, because we're coming up on a renewal for Census, and I don't want Sean to see this slide. So let's hope he doesn't notice this. But in general, obviously, with being able to do something much faster with reduced resources, obviously we save money from that. I don't have exact numbers for that. And so thank you all you guys for your time. And I really enjoyed speaking about our journey for enabling our data warehouse and our CDP platform, and subsequently enabling our marketing team to accelerate their campaigns. I hope you found this useful. And again, thanks for your time. Back over to you, Sean.
All right. Thank you, Samir. Thanks, Clayton. And thanks, everyone, for joining. I love this topic of conversation. There's a lot of fascinating things happening here. And if you'd like to learn more about how Composable CDP might work for you, more information, come visit us, say hello at lakehousecdp.com, and hope to see you next time. Thanks.